Happy New Year, studio owner. Ever tried to put together a puzzle without the picture on the box? Frustrating, right? That's how running a studio feels without a plan. The Studio Planathon is your puzzle box lid, your roadmap for 2025. For $27, you'll get 10 videos, a 50-page guide, lifetime access, and bonuses like the Studio Planner and retention solution to keep students coming back. But hurry, it's only available until January 13th. Head to studioevolution.com/plan and get started today. Welcome to Your Studio Podcast, sharing strategies for studio owners. Chantel Bruinsma and Michelle Hunter are co-CEOs of Studio Evolution, an online global community for studio owners who run dance, music, acting, visual arts, yoga, Pilates, even woodworking businesses. Over the last decade, they have transformed the lives of thousands of studio owners, helping them to create wildly successful and profitable studios, giving studio owners the life of their dreams. So welcome home, grab a cuppa, let's get started.
Hello, lovely ones. How are you? It's Chantel here. Welcome to Your Studio Podcast, and I'm here with my bestie, my wifey, Michelle Hunter. Hi, how you doing, friend?
I'm good. And hi, friends. It's a good day today. We're up early. We're ready to do this.
We're batching a whole bunch of podcasts. It was funny. We're in Bali for Horizon House with a bunch of our clients, and Ryan looked at me and they're like, "Are you recording more than one podcast on one day?" I was like, "Yes. Have I taught you nothing?" we batch everything here at Studio Evolution because we like space and time and freedom. And so, yes, we're going to record 5 podcasts a day, Michelle.
We are on a roll. We're on a roll. And what we also love doing here at Studio Evolution is hearing from our awesome community of studio owners. And today we're going to hear from one in particular who has a great question, Chantel. And it reminds me, what would baby Chantel do back in the day?
I don't know if that's really the question we want to ask. I don't know if we need to go back to that time in our 20s, right? I don't think we need to go back there, do we? Do you want to go to those stories?
No.
Or should we talk about like what we would know now, what we
yes.
know now that we would do?
Yeah, that's right. Right. Knowing what we know now. And, you know, hindsight's an incredible concept, right? But I think it's the experiences that we have lived that really make us who we are. And even in the studio owner world, there's so many stories and there's so many experiences. And there's so much we can learn from.
So April's left us a voicemail, and we would love for you to leave us a voicemail too. So if you'd like to, in the show notes for today's episode, there's a link and you can go and just like send us a little voicemail, say howdy doody, and ask a question that's on your mind. So if you would like to do that, please jump and kind of do that after this episode. But right now, let's hear from the lovely April.
Hi, Chantel and Michelle. This is April. I run a children's art studio here in the States. I opened my studio about 3.5, almost 4 years ago. And I'm just now starting to feel like I can keep my head above water and kind of get my wits about me. And my question is, what is something that you know now that looking back, you wish you had implemented at your studio sooner? Kind of like a game changer that really helped you out in your studio in the day-to-day. I just finished Leap, which was amazing and wonderful, and I'm just so excited to keep moving on with my studio, and I'm excited to hear back from you guys. Much love and appreciate everything you guys do. Bye.
So lovely.
Oh my goodness.
So lovely. Thanks, April. And look, you've made it through the first 3.5 years. So you have been.
I was just to say, bravo. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And she's saying, and her head's above water. And, you know, and we love hearing from our art studios. They're such a joy.
Yeah. All right. So Michelle, so the question is, what do we know that we would go? Why are you giggling?
Because it's like, I gotta. She's like, what do you know? It's like, let's bring out the scroll.
Well, that's it. Michelle and I were talking about this before we started recording. It's like we've got bullet points after bullet. So strap yourselves in because we've got a lot of things to say about this topic, right?
Yeah,
we really do.
We've got a lot. We've got a lot, and I think, Chantel, I think, like, let's start with the big one. And I think this, what you're about to talk about is really pivotal to who you are as a studio owner when you run a studio, your identity, your values, everything that you represent. This concept is game changing.
Yeah, it comes from my favorite book. You've probably heard me wax lyrical about it in the past. It's called Good to Great. Why some companies make the leap and others don't. Did you notice that, Michelle, that I named our entire program after the tagline of this book? That's how much I love it, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's a model in this book. This book is full of gold, but there's one thing I want to talk about because it really does answer your question and sums it up so concisely. Jim Collins, our guru here, sums it up, and it's called the hedgehog concept. And I think where a lot of studio owners go wrong and they live in the weeds for much longer than they need to comes down to this particular concept. And so I'm just going to teach it to you today, my friends. And so the hedgehog concept is a Venn diagram. So I want, if you're on a little walk and you're in the bush and you're listening along, imagine 3 interlocking circles, or I'm holding up a little picture of one today. In the first circle, you're going to write what you are passionate about, what you care deeply, what is meaningful to you, like when you're designing your studio, I want you to bring your heart in more, right? Bring the passion of the mission that you are embodying. So being really clear on your mission clarifies everything. The first thing we do when someone joins Studio Evolution is get really clear on totally up-leveling their mission. And what this does is it kind of elevates you above the pack. There's a lot of studios out there. You operate in a highly competitive industry, everyone, right? There's competitors, there's people doing similar things. Also, just, competition for dollars is tough. So the more that you're able to clarify who you are, what you're here to do, what you give through your mission, it just lets everyone else just kind of float away and you become the sole choice because it's so appealing and magnetic what you're about. So that's the first thing, really understanding you're not here just to do art lessons, April. I'm sure it's actually a lot more than that. There's probably things that you really care about giving to your students and who you want them to grow into and what you are passionate about bringing into their lives. So when we start marketing from that position, it changes from just the low-level marketing you see, come have a fun, friendly kind of art class, right? Yeah. And that's essential. So the first circle is what you're really passionate about, and it's more than just classes, yeah? The second piece is really critical. And this is, what are you the best at? And you might think that those two, like, what are you passionate about? What are you the best at? But they're kind of different. I want to speak to the difference between those two. So what you're the best at means the hardest thing that I think is for studio owners is there's so much you can do. You guys are a talented bunch, right?
They can wear all the hats. All the hats.
All the time. And what you do really well. So there's a lot of people who are going to come to you as a studio owner. Oh, you know what? I heard about this thing. Can you run this type of class? Or could you do this particular kind of workshop? Or could you do this? Or you have a teacher, like, I'm really passionate about doing this type of program. And they'll come to you with sparkly eyes. And you'll go, because you're a nice human person and, maybe have some people-pleasing tendencies that a lot of studio owners have, right? You go, like, sure, that sounds wonderful. I can see how much you'd love that. And then you create this whole other arm of the business and it ends up siphoning so much of your energy and your time. And it's not quite in alignment with what actually you're all about. And so the second circle, what you are best at, means simplification, eliminating all of the fluff. Literally, if you can distill everything down to its the smallest variant, right? The least number of programs you can run, the least number of pricing variations you can have, the least number of membership options, the least number of team, literally everything. The more you can distill it down just to the very best, to the very cleanest, that is going to give you an enormous advantage, because what slows businesses down as they grow is complexity. They need more communication, more training, more thinking, more decision making, less certainty, right? So the more complexity you have, the more this business of yours is going to require you to be there making the decisions. And it means you can't be on a lilo having a margarita. Not okay, right, Michelle?
Yeah. And that complexity feeds back from the back end to the front end to the student experience to how you run your team. If you can keep it simplistic, it will change the whole experience from user experience to the back end.
You got it, friend. I mean, so making those big decisions to reduce the moving parts, it's kind of like every program you have in your studio needs to be marketed.
Yeah.
And you've got to train teachers who are specialized in that particular program. It needs communication about those programs. It's got to curriculum, lesson planning. The more elements that you have, it also means on the timetable, there's going to be more different options for people to enroll in classes. And because there's more options, you've got to promote the classes to get the capacity in order to make the profit. You with me? Mm-hmm. So the number of different programs you have on your timetable, it means you've got to work a hell of a lot harder in terms of capacity. And that means it's going to be harder for you to make money. So being what you're best at means like, okay, which program do you have right now that is, it just sings and it just creates an unbelievable experience for the students and it's easy to run. People love it. There's a strong sense of progression that moves people through. It's really great for retention. It's easy and it works, right? We just want programs that does that. So, if you can get down to maybe 5 different levels, different programs in your business, you're going to do really well because we're going to be able to consolidate classes for capacity and make more profit. Hooray.
Okay, last one, Chantel. And it's one some of us find confronting as studio owners, but some of us love it.
Yeah, we do. We do. It's money. It's money. It's talking about money. And as a studio owner, the third circle is Jim calls it what drives your financial engine. Yep. I call it what makes you money. Mm-hmm. Just keep it really simple. So where do you make money in the business and understanding that and making decisions based on financially what's going to serve you best. So that comes down to a bunch of different things. It comes down to thinking about hiring and like how you can deliver the experiences for the most affordable wage while still keeping the absolute top quality, right? Like understanding if I did it this, if I hired these types of people versus if I did these types of people, like how that would play out. It comes to when we're marketing, which program are we going to really put the front foot on with marketing because that program sells easily and is really profitable. It's like knowing how to select and put the energy into that which is going to grow the business. It also means about charging appropriately. Like, we've got to charge this amount so we can hire enough team to support you. So those 3 things come together. This is how it comes together and looks. What are you passionate about? What are you the best at? And what makes you money? And when you understand and stay in those 3 circles every month of every year, we're getting a bit diluted here. We're being a bit distracted. We're putting all of our focus into this huge workshop and we're not actually focusing on our capacity. The more you just keep coming back to those 3 circles, where's our mission? How are we living our mission? How are we keeping really clean on just doing what we're best at? And how is this really making sure that we're making money? You keep answering those 3 questions, you're going to do really well. You're going to do really well.
And even having it visually mapped and on the wall as a reminder, so helpful to bring back. Always to look through the lens of how you're making decisions through those 3 circles is very helpful.
Yeah, and the reason it's called the hedgehog concept, you might be wondering, why is it called the hedgehog? It's a bit random, right? It's based on a story of a fox and a hedgehog. And the fox is fast and speedy, right? And he's going over here and like, oh, look over here, there's a little bunny. Oh, look over here, there's a little rodent over here. Oh, look over here, look, sunshine. Oh, it's rainbows. And they're just this shiny object syndrome fox. Yep. Constantly distracted. Short-term thinking, moving here, doing this, going there, here, here, versus the hedgehog, incredibly slow, incredibly methodical, incredibly focused, just going here. I'm just going to go here. When we're talking about, April, you're 3.5 years in, and we want you to have a flourishing career as a studio owner and make a lot of money and have a life that you really love.
Yeah.
And that's going to come from building a really rock solid business and honing your aptitude for making really strong decisions about the systems and teams, financially, the programs, retention. That's going to solidify that trajectory of your business and give you the grounding you need so you can have a life, is the really big thing. Michelle, I want to throw it back to you.
Yep.
What else is on your mind, like outside of the hedgehog concept, that if you were to kind of say like, oh, this is important for a studio owner to really grasp?
You know, it's one that I see can sometimes, you know, decimate a studio if it's not on top of sooner, and you can really leave it for a long time. And that is getting on top of your taxes and finding a good bookkeeper. You know, the growth to when you need to be on top of this can be quite quick, and we can focus so much on growing the studio and being in the studio and the culture. It is so important. Make sure you're dialed in with a bookkeeper from the get-go, you know, to support your growth, and get disciplined into the habit of putting the money aside for the tax into a separate bank account. It's crucial. It's crucial.
We've seen it break a lot of studio owners.
Oh, it's heartbreaking. And it's heartbreaking because we are not, you know, a lot of studio owners have so much passion, and we're not all accountants, you know, at heart, so that we're not thinking of these things in the forefront when we're trying to create these amazing experience for our students. So if we could just keep that in mind, it really will take some of that stress out when it comes to tax time.
Love it.
Chantal, what about you? What about team? What's some things?
Yeah, there's one other thing that really, you know, 3.5 years in April, and for those of you kind of like looking at going to this next level, it's to really know your role and to know what your role is best, where your time is best invested, and preserve that, right? The larger the business grows, like when you start, you know everyone knows you, and you are the center of the wheel. And everyone kind of comes back to just check in. Are you happy with this? Happy, happy, happy. Over time, as the business grows, that's going to need to evolve, right? Because you want to sleep, and that's going to be important. So the sooner that you can start to play with your relationship with doing all the things, and maybe bringing on additional people into a place where, you know, they could support to make some decisions, that you trust them, that people could go to them and get the information they need.
Yeah.
That's really important. So making sure that you've got a team around you, that you're not the only kind of one holding this all together, is really strong for the stability. And I know it's kind of like it's an insurance policy, right? To make sure that things can kind of keep going really well. In order to do that, this is a kind of intersecting point. Charge high.
Yeah.
And raise your prices every bloody year. Right? If I can give you one bit of advice, raise your prices every bloody year, because if you don't, and you're like, oh, I'm a bit nervous about raising my prices, then what happens is that everyone else is raising around you and you've kind of been left off. And then you've got to really do some massive price corrections to get back in a good place. And that's scary.
That is scary.
So the best thing you can do is do a small increment every single year. Your clients will get used to it. They will expect it. They're not going to blink an eye. Oh, it's just happening again. It's not scary. It's just kind of, you know, small bits. That is essential. And the more you charge high, the more people perceive you as a place that's really a destination, the more your marketing will actually work, and you'll have the money to pay for more team. So again, like if I could give you any advice, raise your prices and don't be afraid to go top market.
Yep. One that I found so game-changing, and it's something that we said at the beginning of this podcast we practice, but batching is really important, and I think it's something that you can get really good at, and it's not just in planning or admin. Like there's a real opportunity for studio owners to be batching their socials and their marketing, and to really be freeing up a lot of their mental load. Because let's get real, not a lot of us love marketing. Studio owners love marketing, and they think it's quite hard. So if you can batch it, it will just create so much more space.
What does that mean? What do you mean by that?
By batching?
Yeah.
Well, batching is really getting intentional about your marketing and looking at it at a project basis of actually planning, implementing it, and then it's done. The last thing you want to be doing with marketing is sitting down at a computer every day and then starting it and then getting distracted, getting disheartened. But I think we find, Chantel, when we actually set some real intentional time to work on an actual big project, and especially when it's got to do with marketing, you can give it the energy it needs, the time and the space, and you'll actually get it done quicker and do such an amazing job when you give it the time it deserves. And then it's done. That's what we mean by batching. We do it in, one big time session and we get as much done as possible. And this might be something simple as planning all the marketing for your enrollment for the new season, your re-enrollment, like batching all the posts, all the emails, all the structure, all the comms, all the automated email sequences, getting it done in its full project. So if that's like the enrollment, you want to get everything done for that enrollment intake. If you've got like a Bring a Friend week or a special campaign that you're doing, getting all of the comms, all of the marketing dialed out for that one project and getting implemented, and then it's just follow up when the leads start flowing in. So that's what we mean when we batching. We want it done to its full extent in a one session period.
Yeah, so that, and like designing it in the way that next year when that same event comes around, you've got it all documented, you've got it all prepped, you can just kind of press play. We're not reinventing the wheel.
Yeah.
That's what slows a lot of studio owners down. And batching is a relationship again with time.
Yeah.
Having, good chunks of time to be working on the business and not just working in the business and, not just being in your inbox, but actually working on the things that are going to really move the needle. And I know, April, you asked us for like one thing and we've given you 42, but there's a lot to say. And one thing I do want to say, that is, it's really important, is there is a relationship between the amount of teaching you're doing every single week and the growth of your business. So the studio owners who come into Studio Evolution, they work with us and they're teaching 25, 30, 40 plus hours per week. They're teaching. That amount of energy that is going into teaching is taking your energy away from growing the business. And what we find is one of the first things we work on when we start working in Studio Evolution with our clients is we're setting goals for reducing their teaching hours. And there's going to be the clients of ours who just kind of go like, oh, but I love teaching. Yeah. It's my joy. It's my passion. It is. We're not taking it away from you. No. We're not taking that away from you. You will always be a teacher. Yeah. And you'll also find maybe the business side was overwhelming and stressful and you didn't know where to start and you didn't have the confidence to be really embracing your financials. So it's easy to hide in teaching because it's your comfort zone, right? Yep. But if you really want to grow the business, one of the most important things that we can do is reduce your teaching hours. My rule of thumb is I would like for you to be teaching no more than about 10 hours per week on 2 consecutive days. I have some big kind of clarifying considerations around that. Here's why. Because that, if you taught Monday, Tuesday, let's just say, you could do Thursday, Friday. That gives you 3 days for your brain to go into business mode and to go into thinking about how we're going to be really growing the business. It's hard. You guys know this, right? It's hard when you've been like doing a really good, juicy project. You're doing some marketing, you're doing some retention planning, and then you got to go teach. You got to take off that hat, shift hats, and it takes, and like, oh, where was I again? And you've lost that momentum. When you're teaching 10 hours a week, 2 5-hour days, you have energy, the business benefits, and it is transformative. So again, we need to charge high, have team on board from the beginning, so that you have the space to give this business what it needs. The reason many studio owners struggle is they keep themselves in it too much in the teaching capacity and doing the things, and they're not working on the business enough. If you can really be aware of that and hold to what we call vision dates, having whole days of just working on the vision and moving towards the vision of your business, you're going to fly. You're going to fly.
That's right. That's right. And Chantel, I think on that long list that we've just regurgitated for April, there's probably one at the end, which we have this thing called Celebration Week, when all our members in Studio Evolution upload all their projects for that pillar. So everything they learned from all the projects that, Chantel has beautifully outlined for them, and they're learning and they're implementing into their studios, they get to do their uploads and they come onto Celebration Week and we celebrate the pillar that just was and all the hard work and the results that they've put into their business. And it's something we hear every pillar, at Celebration Week, and we ask for our members' feedback. And the one thing they say is, I wish I did Studio Evolution sooner.
Do you know my favorite bit about those conversations too? It's when they say, my husband wish I'd done Studio Evolution sooner.
That gets me every time.
Right? And how many, like, I got my wife back. And the amount of husbands I've heard, like, have emailed us, like, directly.
Yep.
And they were nervous at first about joining Studio Evolution because they're like, my wife is already stressed off her head.
Yeah.
I don't see her. She's never home for dinner. I don't get my wife anymore. The studio has her. And there's like this little resentment, right? Underlying it all.
She's already maxed.
She's maxed. And then like my wife comes to me saying, I want to do this intensive program and like, you know, it's going to change my life and everything. And the husband's like, but I don't see you as it is. Like, how can you put one more thing onto your plate? Anyway, they move through that conversation and she stepped into Studio Evolution. And then suddenly it's like the studio has been this wild horse that you haven't been able to control. And it's just like, just running everywhere and wild. And you're just trying to hold on while the studio is just bucking you around, right? And soon, within a few months of joining Studio Evolution, you see the rider take the reins and you see the horse get under control. And soon it is just you're leading the horse, not this wild Brumby that's kind of just gallivanting everywhere. And the husband actually starts to see, or the partner starts to see their love come back into themselves and become the leader of the business that's not just here to kind of flip-flop everywhere. It's like, no, here's where we're going and here's why. And that's how they get their partner back, because they get this business under control. And for years they'd resented the studio because it took their love away from them. And to see that return,
And then they even say, you know, I took my husband away for his birthday on holidays. Like that flow-on effect is just...
Took my family to Europe because the studio could afford it for the first time.
Yeah.
Big deals.
Huge.
Big, big, big deals. So when you're ready, come and join us in Studio Evolution. It's life-changing, and we would love to get your life back.
Yeah.
Get your life back. It's a beautiful thing. Well, everyone, thank you for listening. Hope you've taken note on the one thing that we would share.
That's right. The one.
Just the one. The one thing that we wanted to communicate to you. And we will see you next time for more of your studio podcast. And if you've got a question you want us to answer, pop on over to SpeakPipe, leave us a voicemail. We would love to feature you on the pod. And we'll see you next time.
Bye, friends.
Bye.
That was so much. Like she got bang for a buck there. So good. So good.
Love what you hear? Make sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode and leave us a review. Interested in working with us and want to find out more about how we can help you? Head to studioevolution.com/start.